Welcome everybody back to the channel for a very special video. Dom and I collab a lot. You guys know this. Dom's here again. How you doing, Dom?
I am here again, and I am doing good. I'm doing well. That's the correct terminology, by the way, for anybody who's never taken an English class, because you would need to, because good is an adjective. You have to describe something with the good. That good needs to be, are you doing good things? Are you doing good deeds? Are you instead of...
Right.
But well is an adverb, which means that when you're doing something, when you say I'm doing well, that well is affecting the verb. I got that corrected to me when I was in...
Grammar lessons from Dom. We love to see it. But just so you guys know, this isn't a grammar lesson. This is, in fact, some context. Dom does the podcast. I think you call it a podcast. He does the show called Finest Fridays, right? Where he covers DC finest releases in a really in-depth way with a very special co-host. So tell us a little bit about DC Finest, I guess. Maybe like intro the format just briefly, and then we're gonna get into it, guys. The 5 DC Finest that Dom, in Dom's opinion, are maybe the most essential, whether for historical reasons or maybe it's Dom's favorite DC Finest so far. Something that all the collectors should be getting if they're looking to get DC Finest. I've also got a set of compacts that I'll go over as well. Just stuff that I've been liking in my collection. But I'll throw it to Dom first. What the heck is DC Finest, and why does that format excite you so much?
DC Finest is DC's, if you even want to call it, answer to the Epic Collections. That's the short phrase of it, but it really is just like their showcase trade paperbacks. It's their formula and way of saying, this is how you can collectively and comprehensively have every single major issue that those franchises, whether it be Wonder Woman or Green Lantern or Robin, you can have every single one of those main issues on your bookshelf. Or in the case of genres, we have horror, you have science fiction, you have war. Most recently, this Western that dropped that also features the first appearances of characters like El Diablo, Tomahawk, the son of Tomahawk, Jonah Hex. So you have all of these different creators, all of these different titles, and that is essentially the way to go if you want quite literally everything on your bookshelf. They do not cut corners when you talk about collecting all of these different issues, and they make sure that every single issue that they can restore, they can put in, is in these books as well for the cheap price, no matter if it's 200 pages or 684 pages for $39.99 USD or $54 in Canada.
Yeah, it's been an excellent, eye-opening format that we've seen DC doing. They're leaning hard into it, and collectors are having a ton of fun with it. But as we get into it, maybe some are more essential than others. I would say that, just kind of going off of what you said, yeah, the fact that they're kind of all encompassing whatever that character was doing for the most part. If he appeared in a crossover there, they kind of throw it in and make it a super, super comprehensive reading experience. I've been loving the DC Finest, so we know we had to have Dom on to discuss them. Dom, I heard you got a little runner-up. We got 5 for sure, but you also have a runner-up. Did you want to get into that?
Let's go. Yeah, let's put the runner-up in. And I have to shout this out because this is, I think, my favorite era for this particular character. And because all the other 5 were just like, man, I love all these books. There's at least 15 that I looked at my shelf. I was like, man, there are 15 that I could put in my top 5 realistically. This had to come in at number 6 just because I think the other 5 are better / more important, if you even want to call it that. I have to give a big shout out to a most recent DC Finest that came out, which is Superman Time and Time Again by Dan Jurgens, Roger Stern, and Jerry Ordway, some of the most influential creators of the title. I think what they managed to do after Man of Steel and what John Byrne did to sort of bring the character back up in the pages of Crisis on Infinite Earths, because we're starting with a brand new status quo, a brand new reintroduction to the character. This is a Superman who, if you are thinking about, oh man, this is what he does. Like, he wants to help out people. He wants to put others before himself. It's always saving lives before anything else. He's a citizen of the world before he's a citizen of his country. This is the book to get it. These are three different creators, and Louise Simonson later, when she gets on with Superman, the Man of Steel ongoing. This editorial household that knew what to do with the character every single week had a brand new Superman book on the stands with a triangle mark on it that said, hey, this is part 1 or part 2 or whatever that story might be. This is the way to go for that reading order. You knew exactly what you were getting with Superman, and I'm sorry, like I was just like, somehow there are 5 books better than that. But I just feel, just because of the importance of the Triangle era and what it did to sort of, at least in my mind, restore the goodness of Superman back into the fold, I had to put it somewhere, even though it didn't make the cut for the top 5.
I love that. Yeah, I think for me, that material I was debating on, because they have the Triangle era omnibuses that are coming out, right? So for me, it was like, okay, the material in the finest, the Omni, still kind of deciding for my own personal collection, but I love that inclusion for those that are going for all the Superman DC finest. I mean, that's an easy one to add to their shelf, right? So with that being said, I'll throw it to you for your number 5 pick, and then I'll get into my 5 compact, and we'll go back and forth. But lay it on me, your number 5 pick.
I'm gonna put I was like, which one do I put at number 5?
I love how hard this was for Dom. I love it.
I had 15 on me. I'm just looking. I'm like, man, Harley Quinn could have been on here. The Flash First Silver Age volume could have been on here. I could have put the first volume that even Golden Age Wonder Woman like had its merits. I was like, do I put this in just because of its importance? I'm gonna put Static at my number 5 because I think it's uniquely important to have a different sort of look in casts of diverse storytelling, but you're also talking about a character that first appeared in the Milestone imprint, just sort of this all black, all diverse, creative team in the 90s that were attempting to say, hey, comics can be for everybody. Let's make these stories enhance, have us look at different characters in different settings to better emulate the different lives that these creators were experiencing, whether it be your Dennis Cowan's, your Robert Washington's, Dwayne McDuffie, of course, the late legendary Dwayne McDuffie, who was one of the spearheads of all of this imprint. And what you're looking at, of course, is Virgil Hawkins, who goes by the name of Static. Suddenly, he gets powers after this sort of really, really weird experimental gas thing that happens on Paris Island. And he goes like, wait, I can be a superhero and I can start saving people. Man, some of the realest things that I read in this book, like there are lines that are so like, this is not what we do, Virgil. We don't do stuff like that. It's got a great romance story. If you want to call it that, sort of like the back and forth. You got teenage drama, soap opera elements are in there. This book to me feels like, and I see why now, the most, I think, important and iconic, I guess partly ironic because you also have Icon as a part of Milestone, the most iconic of these Milestone books. And for that reason, I have to put Milestone in. I love the TV show running on Boomerang when I was a kid. I can't say that it shouldn't be on here. So Static will be comfortably by number 5.
Love that pick. That is a finest that I had a chance to read last month. Loved it, dude. Loved it. So good. That one doesn't have a sequel yet, does it?
No, we gotta wait for the next one, and I hope it's coming out soon because I find it really cool that they're managing to split Milestone in with like characters for this format, which makes me happy because if Static does well, why can't we get the same for Hardware and Icon and all of these other Milestone characters too?
Yeah, this was my first experience reading any Milestone stuff, and I really cannot speak enough good things about the Static run. Just so sick. Virgil Hawkins shooting up my list of favorite DC characters. I mean, just so cool. You spoke so, I mean, you summed it up perfectly. All the different elements in there, the soap, opera drama type of stuff. You got the teenage drama stuff. It's all in there. And honestly, you can see how influential it was to things like Ultimate Spider-Man coming out a little bit later from Bendis and Bagley, right? Static, DC Finest, that's a great pick. Now, getting into my compacts, right? These are stuff personally from my collection. I don't have all the compacts that they've released so far. Just stuff from my collection that I've had a chance to read in compacts or stuff that I've read in other formats, but I think they're excellent inclusions into DC's compact line. So first off, let's talk about Kingdom Come just real quick, dude. So Mark Waid, Alex Ross, this was like a no-brainer pick for compact. I think it was in, maybe not in their first wave, but pretty early in terms of what they decided to print in the compact form. My favorite DC story of all time, maybe. I mean, it's up there. It's on the Mount Rushmore of DC stuff for me. Just seeing Alex Ross's artwork as one of the first stories, because there's stuff you read when like you're a kid, but then there's stuff you read as an adult, and you can get a deeper appreciation for it. So this was one of my first stories coming into the comic book hobby as an adult and reading them and engaging in the hobby in like a real in-depth way. Kingdom Come was just mind-blowing to me. So if you guys are out there trying to decide which compacts to pick up, you haven't had a chance to read Kingdom Come yet, it's such an excellent pick in this compact format. I think it reads super great. The Alex Ross artwork translates really well to the compact. It's got this painted style if no one's seen, if you haven't had a chance to see Alex Ross's art style before. So it's just such a classic story for me and a great inclusion in the compact line. So that's got to be my first one out of the compact stuff.
I think it's one of the greatest responses to a very interesting era of comics when people, I don't think it's fair to stereotype every single line in the 90s, because if you read any Vertigo in the 90s, I mean, like it's good. It's some of the best stuff that you'll ever read. But if you're looking at it from an overall partly stereotypical lens, you could see that comics were getting a lot more edgy, a lot bigger, a lot more violent, right? Because you wanted to see the people with the biggest guns, the biggest and roughest arms, like the meanest meanies out on the street. And I think Kingdom Come, if you look at it from that perspective, really serves as a response by Alex Ross and Mark Waid to the way that the industry was sort of steering towards this direction where I don't think that they were completely comfortable with, right? Like, you were reading all your Image books, and again, nothing wrong with enjoying the Liefeld and the Silvestris. Like, if you enjoy Witchblade or, like any other, like Youngblood or any of those characters, I think there's a lot of credence to, like, okay, like these are the types of stories that somebody is enjoying out there, and, like, again, no discredit to them. I think, like, Waid wanted, and Alex, I think especially too, if you've seen, again, any Alex Ross cover that he's done by DC, like, you can tell that he has a cutoff point for some of the characters that he draws. But I think it's their response to saying, no, we can have, even in a world where it feels a lot more diary, a lot more edgy, you can have a world where you can see these characters in the same breath of life that you were reading them in the golden or silver or even bronze age of comics. And so you get this look of an older Superman who maybe, like, all of these superheroes who have aged up as the world has aged up. Do you need superheroes anymore? What does that world look like? I think in that instance you're going to get a fantastic experience with Kingdom Come and everything that Ross and Waid are offering there.
Well said. Listen, that's why we have Dom on the channel. Always speaks so eloquently, guys. So, yeah. Let's throw it to Dom for his number 4 DC Finest.
I need to give a big shout out at least to one pre-1986 book, because I think it's very important to highlight how creators and editors like Julia Schwartz, how guys like Carmine Infantino and Gil Kane were influential to the run. But I think we also need, in that instance, to give people a taste of characters can have different voices, and they can have different personalities and responses to the environments that they're in. Which is why Doom Patrol, the world's greatest superheroes, is going to be my number 4 pick. This is all by Arnold Drake, Bruno Premiani, who draws the heck out of all of these stories. We get it to, and yes, this is literally where all their origins stem from. We find out that Robot Man was in a car accident. You find that, okay, like we got Larry Trainer, who suddenly, like, he can get out this, like, these particles of matter, separate his body from himself in a freak accident. Same thing happens with Rita Fartoo, Elastigirl. If I also made a mini rant, I really hate how when people think of Elastigirl, they think of the Incredibles version. And as a Doom Patrol fan, I'm sorry, Elastigirl is Rita Farr. She's mine. I can't have this extra pixel. You couldn't have named her anything else, like thought of anything else, because they essentially do have the same superpowers. So, all that aside, this is fantastic in the non-Silver Agey DC trope. If you're thinking, oh man, it's just like all the characters having a lot of the same style, a lot of the same voice, you can't differentiate one person from another. Everybody here has different personalities. You got Chief that operates differently from Negative Man, and Negative Man from Robot Man, etc., etc. We got, again, like weird, all these weird different villains. Like you got you got a brain that's encased in a robot body that can talk, and you find that weird. You got a talking gorilla, and Monsieur Mallow, who's I think one of the coolest characters at DC. He's in love with this brain guy because you gotta have some fun in there. Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man also has their first appearances in Doom Patrol. One of my also odd and favorite characters. This is the best that I think you will be able to get as far as a Silver Age experience is concerned from a technical, non-historical standpoint. And during I talked with Mark Way, he said that Grant Morrison would agree that this is the best Silver Age that you can get. And when Grant got on the book in Doom Patrol in 1988, I want to say, when they got on the run, they took a lot of inspiration from the Arnold Drake and Bruno Premiani run. So for that, I'm going to put that at my number 4.
That's such a fascinating pick, Dom, but when you explain it, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Just, it's a standout of that era. And yeah, for that reason, I think it's a great inclusion. Doom Patrol has the sauce, everybody. Like, the more Doom Patrol I read, the more I want to get into this team. So this is probably a finest I'll end up getting at some point.
And have you watched the TV show, Unrelated?
I haven't yet, and my brother keeps telling me he's like the biggest like new Doom Patrol fan. It's actually crazy. He's buying these DC Finest Doom Patrol books. Like, he wants to read as much Doom Patrol as he can. He's loving the team. So there's something about the Doom Patrol, man, that people just end up loving. So if that sounds interesting to you, if Dom's explanation, got you excited about some Doom Patrol, $40 will get you that nice collection there. Some early Doom Patrol stuff. Number 4 for me, in terms of most important compacts that I have so far, gotta go New Frontier. DC New Frontier, kind of for the same reasons, that we gave for Kingdom Come, just as its importance in DC's catalog of stories. They have so much good stuff, but New Frontier is one of those stories that everybody's got to check out. Darwyn Cooke classic, of course. It's such a it's emblematic of that era, and it kind of embraces it with both arms, and Darwyn Cooke just executes it so well. Even if it's not my favorite DC story, personally, right? I do think it's got such importance to DC just in general. You get some great artwork in here from Darwyn Cooke with the Dave Stewart coloring, of course. Maybe I like the movie more. I don't know, man. Maybe I saw the movie first. Like, maybe it's slower in the middle. I'm not the biggest Hal Jordan fan, right? But all that being said, look how thick this compact is, bro. For $10, you cannot go wrong. If you like them thick, you can find a lot to love in this one. And listen, if you haven't had a chance to read it, it's definitely a story that every DC fan should check out, even if it didn't end up being as good as maybe people made it out to be before I jumped in. But it's still one of those stories, and I think these pair so good together, man. The fact that these are some of the first that DC decided to compactize.
I like that verb, yeah.
They had to go with those two somewhere in the DC compact line. So yeah, excellent first two there. Those would be my number 5. And
I like the DC New Frontier, even if you're not like the biggest fan of the book. And this is partly the reason why. I had a first chance to read it when they made a Black Label version of it, even though it's not a mature story at all. Like, I think I can give it to a 10, 13-year-old, and I think they'd be completely fine with reading it. But it really is like just to see the transition go from the golden age of superheroes, right? You talk about an era where the Justice Society of America did eventually have like a sort of like falling out with the people who were reading those books. And in a nuclear world, right, where, again, like to sort of like tie it into the world at large at the point, you had the Korean War, where we find out that Hal Jordan was fighting in, and you're also looking at the threat of nuclear annihilation as all of those were rising, right? When Cuba gets sent missiles by the Soviet Union, and you're asking, well, are they what is the Soviet Union trying to do here with this state? And you get to see that from a superhero lens, and that's something that I don't think you will typically get, at least for the time now. And we have a lot of comic books now that I think speak very direly of imminent nuclear threat. But if you want to talk about a book that I think does a really fantastic job contextualizing those specific times through the lens of a superhero, because I mean,
Those
Hal
were the
Jordan,
highlights for me as well
right?
of the
Like,
story. Yep.
I really, really thought that was incredibly engaging. I think from the first time I read it, and when I had a chance to reread it in the absolute format, shout out to Omar for letting me do an overview of that. I was like, man, this is exactly what I want from a superhero experience, and I think doing it with either Hal or Barry needed to be the center of it, because those two characters are really the first two of like, okay, we're entering a brand new age of DC.
They kind of sit right on that fence, like right on that distinction between eras.
Right, and because you have Flash, right, who's like Golden Age, you see him with the helmet on, and he's just like wearing a regular. I'm like, you're not going to survive nuclear annihilation wearing that, right? So you get the updates in the costumes for Hal and Barry with two completely sort of, well, not completely, but they do have a different vibe from the Golden Age era. And I think running it through the lens, at least from either one of those two characters, they definitely need to be even if I prefer Wally West over Barry. Like, I do think that it is important to, at least from the lens of this book, to have it through somebody like Hal Jordan, where you're like, yeah, this is the first Silver Age DC superhero.
For sure.
Of course,
as kind of the torchbearers between eras, yeah. Looking at it in that respect, maybe I need to reread it. Maybe I didn't fully appreciate it at the time. I just remember coming away from it as like, oh, okay, that was good. That was good. That was great. But everybody's like, yo, it's the best DC series of all time. And I was like, okay, I got you. But you're right. The highlights of the historical aspects, like I'm such a fan of alt history stuff, and when a creator can do it really well. So yeah, listen, one of the compacts you got to get. Tell me about another Finest, Dom.
I will. And I think it's important because we stand this run on this, even though I picked out the wrong DC Finest, but you should still get everything in the line. I'd have gotten the Longbow Hunters on here. I picked the wrong one from the shelf, I guess, because the green will get you. You should get this regardless. Get Green Arrow Longbow Hunters, get Trial of the Green Arrow, because you guys need to understand what Mike Grell was doing with the character. Sort of like tear down from the top with the swashbuckler Oliver Queen into the sort of the street level Oliver Queen that is dealing with a completely redone origin. You've got stuff with the Shadow. You have the CIA being involved. You have drug abuse that's going on in Seattle. And you also have relationship issues and tie-ins with Dinah and her recontextualization of the character and her relationship with Oliver Queen in that aspect. I think it speaks to how good this run is, just as a standout. You look at Oliver and you're like, he can shoot a bow and arrow really well. But what happens if everything in his life is somehow threatened by forces that sometimes he doesn't even know about? You got run-ins with the police, you got run-ins with the CIA. People are telling him, hey, this weirdo lady who also has a bow and arrow is a really deadly person. You should go shoot her down. And Ollie's like, I can't do that. Like, you find out, like, oh, she's not too bad of a character. And yeah, just for that, man, it's one of the best runs at DC. And if anybody doesn't have a chance to pick it up. If you have a shot to find it, whatever your local retailer might be, please do. Because it's one of the best runs of all time, and I can't speak highly enough of it.
I love that pick. I have been reading the Longbow Hunters actually this month as we speak. It's one of my things on my TBR for the month, and I'm just loving it. I just finished the Longbow Hunters number 1 through 3, the little mini that precedes everything, and then I'm on issue, I think like 4 in the main run, but I'm loving it. I think it is a no-brainer for DC Finest. So sick for all the reasons that Dom has described. It's just so cool. You throw out the trick arrows. We're pairing it Ollie down into his most basic form, and I think it works so well for Mike Grell. It's excellent stuff, and if you like that Chris Condon stuff, man. I mean, it has its origins in that Mike Grell DC Finest. I think it's a great pick. Yeah, I'm loving it. That's an excellent one, Dom. And funny thing about that one, and I don't know, maybe with your sources or whatever, for some reason it sounds like that DC Finest, just from what I hear, it sounds like that one's like harder to find. Like people actually have been tracking down this DC Finest and they're not able to find it as easy as other ones. Like I know from my brother, I get comments on it when I posted, "Hey, I'm reading the Longbow Hunters DC Finest." They're like, "Bro, where'd you find that?" And I'm like, "Is this DC Finest hard to find?" So just from what I hear, I don't know if that's the case, but yeah, if that interests you at all, maybe pick it up sooner rather than later. I don't know if a DC Finest can go out of print, but maybe, who knows. It's a great pick regardless, that Longbow Hunter stuff. Number 3 for me, I'm just loving Greg Rucka the more I'm reading Greg Rucka, so I gotta give a shout out to Batwoman Elegy. An excellent little DC compact here. Such a great story from Greg Rucka with the art from J.H. Williams III. It's, you know, DC's most prominent LGBTQIA plus characters, and you really get that sense as you're reading it. Just the importance of Kate Kane and what she meant at the time. You get her tragic origin. You get some run-ins with Renee Montoya. You're seeing that relationship kind of start to build. And yeah, man, I was so happy to read it, and I read it. I think I read this thing in like a day or like a day and a half or something like that. Yeah, it's an excellent pick. We see Greg Rucka coming back to the character in a big way, kind of finishing off his final word on the Batwoman character. But I believe it all starts here. Maybe the 52 series comes out before this. I don't know. But I know that Batwoman Elegy makes a great compact $10 story, and it's really excellent stuff, man.
I will agree with you on front. I have a couple notes to add. I want people to get too astray, if I may. This should not be somebody's first comic. I think you will get a greater appreciation of the J.H. Williams paneling if you have been reading some other comics in the meantime, just to get yourself familiarized with the serialized formatting, but also because J.H. Williams has, I think, the most unique paneling in all of comics history. If you read,
it's a little out there. You're right. It's maybe a little tougher for a first, but I just think as a, you know, like, because you hear about Kate Kane all the time, and it's like, why does everybody love her so much? It started there, the groundwork that Greg Rucka laid. You're right, though. The art is a little bit out there. It takes a little bit to kind of adjust. Maybe it doesn't come across in the compact as well as it does in maybe other formats. But just as a complete story, Batwoman Elegy, and then you can go off and maybe you get the Omni that's getting reprinted. You can upgrade from there. But yeah, I think it's an excellent one. But good points being made. Yeah.
I think so too. But it's also like Rucka had his first run-ins with the character in that 52 series you mentioned. Like we had sort of like 4 different plot threads in 52 that Grant, Jeff, Greg, and Mark were all doing at the time in the lost year that Infinite Crisis had given us a sort of like, oh, we're doing everything 1 year later. What happened in between the odd years and whatnot. And Rucka was the one who actually managed to do the Renee Montoya storyline in the missing threads of that. Like Jeff Johns had the Black Adam World War III plot threads. Grant Morrison had the space stuff with Starfire and Lobo, and Mark Waid, I think, unfortunately had the it's weird saying Mark Waid was the weakest out of those 4, but he had the Elongated Man plot threads in those. At least, like, if you read it, like, oh, okay, like this is where they're going with that. Kate Kane had a very prominent storyline in 52. Rucka wanted to move on with that, and they said, hey, you know what, Paul Dini is going to be off Detective Comics release soon. They just did a Neil Gaiman Whatever Happened to the Cape Crusader crossover between Batman and Detective Comics. Take over the title. Let's see what you got. And Rucka managed to hit it out of the park with the, like, to me,
like a boot to the face.
Yeah, it's the Kate Kane story, and if anybody, again, it's a masterclass, and if anybody has not read it, should read it. And you know, who knows, maybe the compact sells well enough to where DC says, hey, you know what, we could do an absolute of issues 854 through 863. But I also will say, in the midst of all of this, I remember because Greg Rucka has a Discord server, and he was hosting like a live voice call with a couple of the moderators and whatnot. And I was just sitting in, tuning in with the audience. I was like, I want to, you listen to Greg and whatever he has to say, because I just view his opinions of the world and comics that highly. I literally do think he is. Again, I have not read a mid book from Greg Rucka. If that exists, I have not read it, and I've read a lot of Greg Rucka in my life. So I think that's saying, I guess, at least for me, that's saying something. Greg Rucka said, and this will be my last points on the book, that Renee and Kate have the worst fights. This is canon. He says this is canon. They have the worst fights as a couple, but they also have the hottest and they have the hottest makeup sex in the DC universe.
That's canon, guys. If the writer says it, it's canon, all right? So put that down in your Wikipedia pages, all right? So
yeah, just wanted to give a shout out because I do think the queerness is important, but I also found that funny from Greg.
I love their relationship. So I need everything about it, and I love that little tidbit. That's why we're getting Dom on the channel, always dropping the little tidbits of knowledge. Dom, give us some more knowledge. Number 2 DC.
Number
finest.
2 on my list. It has to be the first volume of Suicide Squad, Trial by Fire. This is a great introductory point for, obviously, with the Suicide Squad and whatnot. But you start off this, and like the way that this is mapped, where you start this series off with the Legends 6-issue series, because that is where they canonically make their first importance. Suicide Squad and Justice League International are where they get their starts in with Legends. Like, we get a whole bunch of branches from DC just through that specific event. In this event where, oh, hey, we got this weird thing called Task Force X. Ronald Reagan wants Amanda Waller to do something with the criminal program. And Amanda Waller's like, Mr. President, I got you. Don't worry about me, honey. Like, I'll get that all under control. And that's when we get introduced to Bronze Tiger and Deadshot and and Captain Boomerang and all of these amazing characters that at the time at DC were not big characters. Nobody's thinking like, hey, you got obviously the whole point of it is a rehabilitation program that is set up by Amanda Waller through the Reagan administration, where these people who have been rotting in prison or are about to be incarcerated or are about to be executed at some point, Amanda says, I won't let you completely go, but you do missions for me on the sideline that somehow help out the U.S. government. You get those missions fulfilled, I won't pull the trigger on you. And by golly, if you do manage to mess it up, I will pull the trigger on you and you're dead. And in the meantime of all of this, the coolest thing about the Suicide Squad is that you learn to bond with those characters. You get to see how these characters operate on a basis of, okay, my life is literally on the line, on the front lines, and also because they will die if they don't fulfill their mission. And so in that instance, you do not want to see these characters dead. That's the last thing that you want to see. And you learn to bond with them. You learn to, wait, these guys aren't too bad. I mean, they're criminals, but they got hearts. You can see what they're doing on the side. Like, that's, I think, why Deadshot eventually became one of the most gravitating characters in the series. So yeah, big shout out to John Ostrander and Luke McDonnell and all the other creators on this particular run. I love Suicide Squad, man, and it has to be my number 2 by that perception.
I love that pick. I hear you talking about it so highly. I hear Omar talking about it so highly as well. Just as a team, as a property, people be loving that Suicide Squad book. So I haven't given it a chance myself, haven't jumped in yet, but the DC Finest seems like possibly the best way to do it, to start collecting some and starting to read some Suicide Squad stuff. So definitely on my wish list, I think, because that's another one where you want to go the Omni route, but I think because it's kind of in that historical side of things, it's kind of more classic. that I might want to get it in DC Finest if, adding it to my collection at all.
Right.
But that's an excellent pick. Number 2 for me for the compacts, say what you will, like, was this the best first Batman story to put in a compact? I'm not sure. But damn, if you don't have a good time.
Oh no, I co-signed with that should have been the first Batman to put on. I agree.
People say right, like, oh, maybe it should have been year 1, and I could see some merit to that. But this one is just so. It's so nostalgic for me, man. When I was reading this, you start remembering when I first read it, all the way back then, and then I don't even think I finished this run. So one of my goals, as I was reading this, I'm like, okay, read the compact. I want to get right back into that Omni and then continue with Omni 2 and just so embrace everything that Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo were doing here. Just the idea of the Court of Owls. One of the coolest Batman ideas I've ever heard in my goddamn life. It's so sick.
Yeah.
It's no brainer why this story is still compelling and is still such a draw for people to this day. Say to this day as if this has been like an 80-year-old story, but it's getting up there now. I feel like people hear Court of Owls and maybe they haven't given it a chance. $10 for the full Court of Owls saga story. Get you ready for, I don't know, Matt Reeves' Batman 2. Is that gonna have Court of Owls in it? I don't know. But yeah, just excellent stuff. Greg Capullo's artwork. I mean,
yeah,
God,
that's good.
So
that's
sick.
So good.
The things that Batman's put through here, just it's just excellent stuff. I read it on the train, dude. It's such a blessing to have these compact comics stored in your backpack, and I read like the entire thing pretty much in one sitting, or I guess 2 sittings. Train ride there and train ride back. Read the whole thing, man. So yeah, I love these compacts, and Court of Owls. You cannot go wrong. Court of Owls. Greg Capullo, Scott Snyder.
I was 12 years old when I got a chance to read that book. Scott was the one who got me hooked on to Batman. So for me to sort of like disassociate myself from the run, I think would be very disingenuous to my younger self, even if I do acknowledge that his Batman does indeed have flaws. Like his Batman, that every single creator does have flaws. I think that Scott, and you've seen this with DCKO very recently, Scott does tend to mess up the climaxes of his books sometimes, and I don't know, like looking back, I don't know if I was the biggest, like I was a big fan of it when I was a kid. I'm less of a fan now as an adult of the Owlman twist, because I think that sort of like takes away from the vibe of like, oh wait, we got like this insidious force in Gotham, and it's all like now being tied into this one character. So spoilers out there if anybody has read it, but otherwise, where do I start? The coolest thing about Scott Snyder's run to me is that I think he might be the best postmodern Gotham writer. Him and Ram V, I think, would probably be my top 2 in terms of like you feeling like Gotham is just as essential of a character as all of Gotham's rogues are, of the supporting characters, if you want to call them that, Batman, or if you want to talk about anybody else. You feel like this Gotham is living. It's got a rich history. It's got like this unique sense of vibe. Like this is the only spot in the world where we can have all of this luxury, yet the people that are also a part of it are just as integral to the archetype. And you feel like, oh man, you see Wayne Tower, when you see this particular porch and how integral that is to the sense of the character that is Gotham. You feel that in Court of Owls. You feel that in Zero Year. You feel that in all of these books that Snyder is writing. And I think that is one of the most underappreciated parts of the Snyder run. Something that he makes very clear and with well intentions in the Court of Owls saga. And something I don't think people talk about enough when they talk about Scott Snyder's Batman. Because the way that Gotham feels makes you want to learn more about this mysterious underlying foe that has somehow been part of Gotham that Batman hasn't necessarily realized. Like, it's so well connected and thought out that if Scott failed to write a good Gotham, you don't feel anything. The Court of Owls would have just been another, hey, we created a new Batman villain just to put it on sales, or
he
just
makes
do
it
something
feel like they've been there throughout the history. Bringing up Ron V2, I think it's a great comparison. I think they both do it in a way that other writers necessarily don't. It just feels like Gotham is just a place that the story takes place in versus being as important to the story. I think you, I mean, that's it right there. That's why the Court of Owls has such a draw to me. And as I get into the Omni and Omni 2, we'll start to feel it out and start to remember maybe what I liked or read it as a kid. I liked it more. We'll feel it. We'll feel it out. But definitely the Court of Owls. I mean, maybe doesn't end as strong as it could, but you're right. The feeling it gives you as you're reading it, it's got such a drive to it. So yeah.
And everybody should read Scott. I don't care what anyone. Everybody should read Scott Snyder's entire Batman run at some point. I do not care what like the hey, like I like this one more than others. You should read that run from front to center. I think just with its overall importance, it's really it's something to highlight as far like if you look at all of the New 52 and like Rebirth and Post Omnis, it should be at like your near number one. And I don't even think any other creators would oppose to that take either.
Yeah, I think we talked about it even in the other collab video that we did. Both of our first Omnis just so happened, and I'm sure maybe it was that way for a lot of different collectors. Maybe when you're a kid, you remember reading the trades, and now you're an adult with some money, you want to buy, kind of relive that nostalgic feeling in the Omni. But I think that, you know, if you're out there and you're a newer reader, pick up the Court of Owls, nice 10-ish. The fact that they're all $10, man, it's still crazy to me. Court of Owls for $10, fully colored. Excellent stuff. It reads great in the compact. So that's my number 2 pick. Dom, tell me about what, in your opinion, is the most essential DC finest out of the entire wave so far. Lay it on me.
What else was it going to be?
There you go. We just talked about
we did.
You know, it's yeah.
I feel it's such a stereotypical answer, and I try to not play into the stereotypes just as much as others because, man, we got so many cool DC finest. This could have easily been Red Skies. This easily also could have been the one that follows this with the Killing Joke and other stories because the stories in there are just so good. It's really impossible for me not to highlight this just because of you have Year One in this, man. Year One is one of my favorite stories of all time, even though I would argue it's more of a Jim Gordon story. And it's kind of a Batman, I mean, it's both, but it feels more so a Jim Gordon story because you are looking at this from, hey, it's from Jim's point of view, him getting a mock-up brand new slate because it's after Crisis on Infinite Earths and we need to, even though we're not relaunching Batman, we need to recontextualize him for the times after we're consolidating everything on one Earth. And everybody has already, I think, praised Year One to death. So I'm not going to praise that portion here. I want to highlight all of the other portions that make this, I think, just as good of a read as any other DC finest that you will ever pick up. You are going to be getting the wonderful work of Max Allan Collins. Max Allan Collins, who writes the Batman portions of this two-parter. I know, again, you have Frank Miller for a good portion of it, but you got Max Allan Collins who sort of like takes Batman to like, hey, like why can't we create really decent detective stories and also give us a look and brand new context for characters like Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson also needed a revamp after Crisis on Infinite Earths. What does the first breakup look like? And that breakup between Robin and Batman, one of my favorite issues, if not my favorite issue, that is collected in here. And at the same time, on the Detective Comics side, you're getting Mike W. Barr, who's writing the heck out of a brand new Robin, Jason Todd. And I am super surprised that a lot of people were, they wanted to axe him off really quick with the 1-900 number, because as you know, Jason Todd does unfortunately get a big crowbar at the end. But I really like his time as Robin. He's different from Bruce, or he's different from Dick Grayson in the fact that there's a little bit more of an edge to him. There's something, doesn't seem, like it's not the upbeat, happy-go-lucky kid that Dick Grayson is. But I find his story as Robin more compelling than I originally thought I was going to have when I first read this material. I really do feel something for the character. There's also a backstory between him and Harvey Dent, so you got Two-Face and Robin action there that I didn't even know was a part of the thread, but you find out that he's part of such a larger war. Even though the guy is stealing freaking tires off the Batmobile, there's also something behind the matter of fact. I won't speak to year two because I have different thoughts on year two, but everything else, as far as a jumping on point is concerned, as far as a historical context is concerned, as far as the year one of it all, and as far as like even Jim Starlin getting to draw and write Batman right before issue 404, getting to have the single issue experience of you in the 80s figuring out, oh, this is what's happening with Batman. Yeah, this was going to be my number one. I know it's, again, a very stereotypical answer, but sometimes you have to acknowledge for just how good the collection is just for the sake of it.
Well said, Dom. I'm a big fan of year one myself, so I love that number one pick. I have year one in absolute. I've got the David Mazzucchelli's Batman year one artist edition. I got some trades over there of year one, I bet, right? So I love year one. I love that as a pick. Got some Batman representation on the list with Court of Owls and year one there, but those are Dom's 5 DC finest that are probably the most essential for any new reader or readers that are trying to get into the format. For me, to top the list, get you ready for the movie possibly. Let's talk about Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. The DC Compact that I had a chance to read, like the latest one I read. Man, what an excellent story from Tom King. Got that beautiful artwork from Bilquis Evely with the coloring from Mateus Lopez. And the way I would put this and why it tops my list, I really think you can give this compact to somebody who doesn't read comics typically, or you can give this to, you know, the girls in your life. You can give this to maybe not kids. I feel like maybe it's a little adult for kids. It gets a little dark in some places, but I think this is like a perfect just one-off story. I think this will stand the test of time. I think it's an instant classic, and I think it's a perfect pick for a compact. And it really goes to show me, like, hey, they're going to be putting out some of the recent stuff. They're not like scared of it. This Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow only came out a couple years ago. I remember picking it up in singles. So yeah, I think this tops my list, just like a new look at a character that you know, I previously didn't know how dark her origin story was, right? Or I didn't know kind of what drives her and makes her different than Superman, and kind of how she works out those differences on her own, and how she kind of thinks about her cousin. I just found it to be so fascinating, this journey with Supergirl and this girl Ruth, just going across the cosmos, a tale of revenge. It's so good. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. And I really do think you can give this to your mom. She's never read comics before. I don't know, something like that maybe. But yeah, just a really good one-off story. And it's emblematic to me of the compact format and like why they should have this initiative. I think this is like the perfect justification for it. That's how to top my list. Some Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I will never bastardize the compact line for what they're doing with getting new people in and getting new readers back, the old readers maybe back into the fold. And this is for two things, and I think I explained this on the Idlevice stream on Very Fine Condition. The first is that the $9.99 price point is unbeatable. It really is. I mean, for you're getting complete stories in the mix for a not very high price point. 2, some of these books are like 400, 500 pages big. You think for $9, like $9.99, like, oh man, I don't know what I'm getting. Like maybe you want to spend that on a burger or something instead. I don't know. But I cannot emphasize, like, if you are people like us, or maybe people younger than us who do not have the money to splurge on something as big as this, or something as big as an omnibus, much less yet an absolute, you still want to read the story. You don't know if it's good or not. Get the compact. I know that like some people have been discussing, you know, they're extending it out either to far reaches to other books that they might not be new reader friendly, or this or that or whatever. I think we're getting towards a point in time where a lot of these books are going to be marked up in price, because that's just the way that inflation goes. That's just the way that our economy goes. Stuff is going to be harder to reproduce, and as the value of the dollar lessens year after year, of course, like, things will have to go up in price. Like, that stuff happens. Like, you compare a video game coming out in 2000, you know, where prices were like $30 or $40 for a new game. Now it's like $70, $80, depending on what game it is. You're going to see that happen. But the fact that DC is keeping a line affordable for every single type of reader, and with a whole bunch of stories that
the variety is crazy.
it's I cannot speak to how genius this line has been for everybody. And this would be maybe a different story if it were only like 100 or 200 pages, or if it's a sampler. Again, some of these things are like 500 pages long, right? And like, oh, like maybe you can get it, like, you know, I love that for the price, for the page count, and maybe for somebody who prefers reading it in the smaller format, because like people like I know who are, you know, again, my age or younger, they might not like the regular comic size. Maybe they prefer everything in tankobon size because that's what they're used to. And the fact that we're getting more people from that demographic in that need to see the magic of how cool American comics can be, American publishing can be, this is literally the perfect way to get those folks in. And I think DC has done an outstanding job of being able to sell people on this marketed idea of affordability and the contents that you're getting.
Well said, Dom. Well said. We love the compact here for what it's doing for the industry, but right back at you, Dom. We love the finest as well, right? For what it's doing. The fact that it's all colored, the fact that it's got that historical sort of approach, the full context for that character or that line, and it's so comprehensive. So we love what DC is doing just in general. Let us know down in the comments what have been your favorite DC Compact or DC Finest releases so far, whether you have them in your collection or not. And yeah, while you're down there, like if you like, sub if you love, and be sure to follow Dom wherever he posts his videos, which are where, Dom?
You can find me at Dom of X, where I will be linked to or with the video, because shout out to YouTube, I guess, for the collaboration tag, so you don't have to worry about going into a description box to look for that information. And this Friday, I will actually be with my buddy Curtis to talk about some of the DC finds, and if not the Friday after that, because I believe that Curtis is still waiting for a Flash DC finds to come in, but otherwise we will have that as program and as per the regular. And of course, you can find me at comicreleases.com, where we do our monthly videos on the most anticipated bookies or collected editions coming out in the nice little format that we do indeed have there. And I am thankful, Cody, for the time that you've dedicated to make sure that our thoughts are well put out for these top 5 lists of ours.
Yeah, hopefully people enjoy them. I know I love making them. Dom, as always, thanks for joining. And thank you guys for watching. And we'll catch you in the next collaboration video.